Hello everyone, my name is Seraphi and I'm happy to meet you all. And today we're going to be playing Thunder Dragons. Oh man, I have been looking forward to this. I spent all weekend on a new account playing Sword Soul forever, playing Resonators in the Triangle games so I could get enough gems to build this stupidly expensive deck. This deck I think has how many URs in it? It's easier to count the cards that aren't URs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. 19 cards out of the 55 are not URs. That's 36 URs. Yeah, so very expensive deck. A lot of fun to play. I highly recommend this deck. So let's go over it and let's take a look at what you could be doing if you wanted to play sort of a chaos theme in the game. For the main deck, we have the standard array of hand traps, 3 copies of Max C. As a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard. This turn, each time your opponent special summons a monster, immediately draw 1 card. Only once per turn. Now, Max C is a level 2 monster, which means that you can special summon it back with Sprite Elf, and you can also use it to make Sprite Elf. Both of those are very useful effects. And Max C is just generally a card that you want to use when your opponent is declaring the activation of an effect that would summon a monster, just so you can get some free advantage. It will oftentimes cause your opponent to end their turn, which is what we want. Ash Blossom and Joyous Springs, level 3 zombie tuner monster. We are only playing 1 synchro monster in the deck, sadly. When a card or effect is activated that includes any of these, you can discard this card and negate the effect. Add a card from the deck to the hand, special summon from the deck, or send a card from the deck to the graveyard, once per turn. So, Ash does not destroy a card. It negates the effect, but it does not destroy it. That's usually good enough, because a lot of times you use Ash Blossom to negate an effect that would special summon from the deck. Special summoning from the deck is very common, and it's also very, very powerful. So as long as you can stop it from happening, you can disrupt it an entire turn. Ash Blossom is a very good card. It definitely played at 3. Then we are playing 2 copies of Called by the Grave. Target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and if you do until the end of the next turn, its effects are negated, as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of monsters with the same original name. So Called by the Grave is an interesting card. You can use this card in response to a monster's effect being activated, and it will negate that activation, as well as any other card that would be activated with the same effect. So typically this is used to stop hand traps. If your opponent activates Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and they discard Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring to declare its effect, it is in the graveyard, which means that you can use Called by the Grave to banish it, and not only negate that particular activation, but also stop Ash Blossom next turn. The problem is it applies to both players. So if you negate a card like Max C, and then you want to use Max C next turn, you can't, because it is negated for both players until the end of the next turn. Any cards that have the same name as the card that has been Called by the Grave. It's a fine. That's fine. You will have no problems with this. And then we have Infinite Impermanence. This is a trap card. Target 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. Negate its effects until the end of the turn. Then if this card was set before activation and is on the field at resolution, for the rest of the turn, all other spells and traps in this column are negated. That is, again, a effect that affects both players. There's a little line on the screen that shows you what zone it's in, but if you play a card or your opponent plays a card in the spell or trap zone that card was in, that card is negated. Very, very disruptive effect, especially if you play it on the side against a pendulum player, because they don't really have an option to play around their pendulum zones being impermed. If you control no cards, you can activate this card from your hand. So that's why Infinite Impermanence sees a lot of play, because it's a negate that you can activate from the hand if your opponent goes first. And then lastly, we are playing 2 copies of Effect Veiler. This is not a card that sees play in every deck, but it will definitely see play in our deck because we are playing effects that care about light monsters being in the graveyard. So, during your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, target 1 effect monster your opponent controls, and negate the effects of that face-up monster your opponent controls until the end of the turn. So Effect Veiler, very similar to Infinite Impermanence. It allows you to simply stop a monster effect from resolving, and also negate any other effects that it has until the end of the turn. The only difference is you can't use it during your turn, which makes it a little bit worse. But having a light monster in your graveyard is beneficial, and that completes our hand trap setup. Now let's talk about the main deck. We have 3 copies of Battery Man Solar. This is our typical normal summon. If this card is normal or special summon, you can send 1 Thunder monster from your deck to the graveyard. That will usually be either your Thunder Dragon Dark or your Thunder Dragon Roar, depending on what you already have in your hand. If a Thunder monster is normal or special summoned while this monster is on the field, special summon a token. Great. You can only use each effect once per turn, but the free token gives you an extra body to use as link material. That's very, very useful. And this card is our best normal summon. We will play this card a lot. So you can use it as a free Foolish Burial. Foolish Burial is already a really good card, and then you get a free body along with it. Nothing to complain about there. Our other main normal summon is Aloof Lupine. We are only playing this card at 1. Aloof Lupine does have some benefits over Batteryman Solar, but not enough. When this card is normal summon, you can banish one monster from your hand, and then banish one monster from your deck with the same type as that monster. If this card is destroyed by battle, or if this card in its owner's possession is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can target one of your banished monsters and add it to your hand. Okay, so the main benefit that Aloof Lupine has over the Batteryman Solar is that Aloof Lupine's effect banishes from hand for cost. So that means that if your opponent activates Effect Veiler or Infinite Impermanence on Aloof Lupine, it will only stop the banish from deck. The banish from hand happens regardless. Whereas with Batteryman Solar, its effect is an effect. So if it gets negated, you do not get to mill anything. However, getting to banish one card from your hand when you even through a negate, while that's very good, is not as good as getting a free token. Absolutely not. And of course, Aloof Lupine does have the drawback that you can't use it if you don't have any Thunder monsters in your hand. So definitely a card that's really dependent on what we draw, but it is a dark monster, which is a very good benefit. You know, we have some dark monsters to go with our lights, and just a generically good card that you want to play at least one copy of, and he is a good boy. All right, no more messing around. Let's get to our main deck. We have Thunder Dragon. You can discard this card, add up to 2 Thunder Dragons from your deck to your hand. Do not do this. You will discard 1 Thunder Dragon, draw 1 Thunder Dragon. It will pop up and say, do you want to draw another one? You say no, so you can use the effect again. Discard a Thunder Dragon, draw another Thunder Dragon. Perfect. There you go. Now, you might be thinking, okay, you know, it's cool to get 2 light monsters in my graveyard, but what am I going to do with the 3rd Thunder Dragon? What is that good for? Well, you can either banish it with your banish it for cost with Aloof Lupine. It's not a card that you need in your hand, so it works great as banishing a card from your deck. Or you can normal summon it and then tribute it for your Colossus. You need a monster to get rid of for your Colossus anyway. This card is a good card to just have to get rid of it for your Colossus. And then you have 3 monsters in your graveyard that you can Thunder Dragon Fusion with. So Thunder Dragon is definitely great. You might think it's weird that we're only playing 1 copy of Hawk and 2 copies of Roar, but we're playing 3 copies of Thunder Dragon. It is because it is so easy to mill your deck with this card. It's great. Speaking of easy to mill, Thunder Dragon Dark. We're playing 3 copies of this card because it can draw itself, just like Thunder Dragon can. As a quick effect, you can discard this card, add 1 Thunder Dragon Dark from your deck to your hand. That is great. The fact that it's a quick effect means that you can use it during your opponent's turn if they go first, which already sets you up with a dark monster in your graveyard and allows you to draw another card from your deck, so then you can use the other version of Thunder Dragon Dark during your turn. So if this card is banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Thunder Dragon card from your deck to your hand except Thunder Dragon Dark. You can only use 1 Thunder Dragon Dark effect per turn and only once that turn. So, as a quick effect, during your opponent's turn, discard it, draw a different one. That'll let you trigger Titan during your opponent's turn. It will let you get some thinning. It will let you put cards in your graveyard. It's a good option to make if you are going second and your opponent is going first. You have nothing else that you can do with your Thunder Dragon Dark. And then on your turn, you tribute it, or you banish it to activate its effect to draw your Thunder Dragon Fusion, which is amazing. Alright. 10 out of 10 card, can't believe it's an SR. Thunder Dragon Hawk. You can discard this card, special summon one of your Thunder Dragon monsters that is banished or in your graveyard except Thunder Dragon Hawk. If this card is banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can shuffle any number of cards from your hand into the deck and then draw the same number of cards. You can only use 1 Thunder Dragon Hawk effect per turn and only once that turn. So I've said this before, and I will say it now. This is the only Thunder Dragon monster where the discard effect is better than the banish from field or send to the graveyard effect. I don't really want to Magical Mallet too often. I have done so on the stream once tonight. I didn't really have a great hand, so I played Gold Sarcophagus. And since I had already used both Thunder Dragon Roar and Thunder Dragon Dark's effects, I just used Gold Sarcophagus to banish Thunder Dragon Hawk and then shuffle. And it turned out to be decent because that gave me an extra body to use as fusion material. So it was okay, but it wasn't the best thing. You definitely want to use this card, discard it, and special summon a monster from your graveyard. It's great. Then lastly, we have Thunder Dragon Roar. You can discard this card to add to your hand one of your cards that is banished or in your graveyard that is a Thunder Dragon card, except Roar. And that can include your Thunder Dragon Fusion, which is really nice. It's part of the reason why we're playing 3 Titans. But the better effect is, if this card is banished or sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon one Thunder Dragon monster from your deck in defense position, but return it to your hand during the end phase. So that's amazing. If you banish Thunder Dragon Roar with your Aloof Lupine, for example, then you get to special summon your Thunder Dragon Dark from the deck. Not only does that get you an extra body on the board, but it also allows you to then use Thunder Dragon Dark's field effect immediately. So Thunder Dragon Roar is an insane card that allows you to easily set up all sorts of plays using cards like Gold Sarcophagus and Foolish Burial. I love this card, and I made so many plays with it, you'll see them in the replays. Alright, that is it for the Thunder Dragon main deck cards other than Fusion, which we will get to. Now let's talk about the Bystial cards. So for those of you that don't know what Bystials are, every Bystial monster has the same effect except Lubellion, which is you can target a light or a dark monster in either graveyard, banish it, and if you do, special summon this card from your hand. It is a quick effect, but only if your opponent controls a monster. So during your turn, if you go first, it is not a quick effect, but once your opponent has a monster on the board, you can start using it as a quick effect disruption. That's great. During your turn, you can use it to banish your Thunder Dragons, set up interesting boards, trigger effects, that sort of thing. And then during your opponent's turn, you can use it to banish light monsters from your graveyard, or dark monsters from your opponent's graveyard that they're targeting to revive, that they're trying to shuffle into the deck, that they're activating effects in the graveyard for, that they need to banish, that sort of thing, just to disrupt them. And you can also get more bodies on the board, which is useful. Now, each Bystial has another effect. And you can see 3 of them are limited to 1, so you can guess those effects are pretty good. Magnemut's effect is, you can activate this effect during the end phase of this turn, add 1 dragon monster from your deck to your hand except Bystial Magnemut, which is going to be another Bystial card. But you can also use it to draw Saravis, the Ancient and Ascended, which we'll get to. So yeah, Magnemut, fantastic card. Always get this card off of Lubellion, it's crazy. Bystial Serenir. You can target a light monster in either graveyard, banish it. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can send 1 Bystial monster or 1 branded spell or trap from your deck to the graveyard, except Bystial Serenir. That effect is too amazing. You will usually use this to mill your Lubellion so that you can use its effect from the graveyard to summon it. But that's not the best use of your board. It's just that Serenir is another, another Bystial that you can play. So it's a good one of. Then we have Druis Worm. Druis Worm is one of my favorites. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard for any reason, you can target 1 special summon monster your opponent controls and send it to the graveyard. You can only use this effect once per turn. So, Druis Worm is if this card is sent to the graveyard and it doesn't miss timing, which means you can trigger it if it's used as link material. You can trigger it if it's sent off of your Bystial Lubellion. You can trigger it if it's sent off of, IP Masquerade. You can use it if your opponent destroys Druis Worm in battle. You can use it if your opponent plays Lightning Storm. Druis Worm is just always going to the graveyard, and it's always going to send a card from your opponent's side of the field to the graveyard, which is excellent. It does target, which means that it doesn't work against monsters that can't be targeted, but getting around destruction and protection is nice, and you will definitely love this card more than you hate it. Now we get to the Bystials we are allowed to play 3 of. So we have Bystial Baldrake. This card's effect is, if your opponent special summons a Ritual, Fusion, Synchro, Xyz, and or Link monster, you contribute 1 other light or dark monster you control, then target 1 of those special summon monsters and banish it. What's not to love? As long as you can get 2 Bystials out, you contribute 1 of them, which could be your Druis Worm, and then trigger Druis Worm's effect to banish 1 of your opponent's cards. Amazing. If you tribute Druis Worm, then not only do you get to banish 1 of your monsters your opponent summoned, but you also get to send another monster they control to the graveyard. And you can also tribute your Thunder Dragons, because they're all light and dark anyway. So yes, Baldrake, very, very good card for this deck. Playing it at 3 is fine. Then lastly, we have the Bystial Lubellion. Cannot be normal summoned or set, must be special summoned from your hand or your graveyard by attributing a level 6 or higher Dark Dragon monster. You can only special summon the Bystial Lubellion once per turn this way. You can send this card from your hand to the graveyard, add 1 Bystial monster from your deck to your hand except the Bystial Lubellion. And during your main phase, you can place one branded continuous spell or trap from your deck face upon your field. You can only use each effect once per turn. Amazing. So, when you open Bystial Rebellion, discard it, draw your Magnemite. Then you can use Magnemite, banish any Thunder Dragon from your graveyard, special summon it, trigger its effect that you get to search during the end phase. Then you activate Bystial Rebellion's effect and you tribute the Magnemite to special summon it. Then you can place a branded continuous spell from your deck, which is going to be your Branded Regain. Branded Regained, this is the entire reason we're playing Bystials. It's a continuous spell. If a light or dark monster is banished, you can target one of those monsters, place that monster on the bottom of the deck, and if you do, draw one card. You can only use this effect once per turn. Wow! Okay, so one of the main problems that Thunder Dragons have is that eventually they run out of Thunder Dragons. Well, if you can constantly shuffle your Thunder Dragon Darks and your Thunder Dragon Roars back into your deck, it doesn't matter if they're going on the bottom of your deck, they draw themselves. They special summon themselves. It's amazing to put these cards back into your deck, and especially if you get to draw a card on top of it. So, Branded Regain, just with the first line, already an insane card. Best card that Thunder Dragons could get, but if there's more. Once per turn, if your opponent normal or special summons a monster, you can target one Bystial monster in your graveyard and special summon it. Again, what more do you want? You get a free card like Magnemite back from your graveyard after you tributed it off of the Bystial Rebellion, and you get to play this card from your deck for free. So Magnemite comes back when your opponent summons a monster. Now you have another body on the board, and you also get to trigger Magnemite's effect to draw another Bystial card during your end phase. So you can just keep drawing, you can keep searching, you can keep triggering your Bystials to shuffle your Thunder Dragons back into the deck, draw more cards during your opponent's turn, which is going to be one of your 15 hand traps, and just pop off. It's great. This is so much synergy. Then we have Seraphi, the Ancient and Ascended. This is the ritual dragon that I mentioned earlier. So none of this matters. You can't summon it, but what you can do with it is when your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a monster you control, as a quick effect you can discard this card to negate the activation. Sweet. So it's just a searchable protection from being targeted, and it's a light monster that you can discard and then banish it with a Bystial to summon a Bystial. So nice little card to just have in your hand. For the spells and traps, we have Foolish Burial. Send one monster from your deck to the graveyard. This is basically just Batteryman Solar. It works the same way. You mill Bystial Rebellion, you mill Thunder Dragon Dark, you mill Thunder Dragon Roar, and you benefit heavily from that. Gold Sarcophagus. Banish one card from your deck face up during your second standby phase after this card's activation. Add that card to your hand. So this will trigger every single one of your Thunder Dragon abilities. It will trigger Thunder Dragon Dark to add any Thunder Dragon card from your deck to your hand. It will trigger Thunder Dragon Hawk to Magical Mallet. And it will trigger Thunder Dragon Roar to special summon a monster from your deck, but return to the hand at the end of the turn. So yeah, this is just another copy of Aloof Lupine that you don't have to normal summon. Definitely play it. Okay, Thunder Dragon Fusion. Fusion, summon one Thunder Fusion monster from your extra deck by shuffling the fusion materials listed on it into the deck from among your face-up cards on the field, in your graveyard, or your banished cards. So this is a fusion card that you cannot use cards in your hand as material, which is pretty rare, but still it makes sense. During the main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard to add one Thunder monster from your deck to your Even reading this card, I can't read this card without laughing. Add a Thunder monster from your deck to your hands. This is a search after you've already used it to fusion summon your ace monster. Wow, this card is insane. I love Thunder Dragon Fusion. Being able to get it back with your Thunder Dragon Roar is fantastic. We're only playing one copy, but you search it off of Thunder Dragon Dark anyway, so it's better to play only one copy and not have it brick. It's pretty good. And that's it for the main deck. Okay, let's take a look at the extra deck. Alright, this is the reason we're all here. This card just got unlimited or not unlimited, it got put to 1 instead of being forbidden in the TCG. So I'm checking to see if this deck is actually any good so that I can see if I can play the second paper. Thunder Dragon Colossus, level 8 Dark Thunder monster with 2,600 attack points and 2,400 defense points. It requires Thunder Dragon plus 1 Thunder monster. Must either be fusion summoned or special summoned during the turn a Thunder monster's effect was activated in the hand by attributing 1 Thunder effect non-fusion monster, in which case you do not use polymerization. So you can fusion summon this card with Thunder Dragon Fusion if you happen to have Thunder Dragon in your graveyard, but usually you're just going to tribute one of your Thunder monsters that's on the field to special summon this card, which is, that's a completely fair upgrade. And it will even trigger your grave effect, your field to grave effects. So yeah, pretty good. Cards cannot be added from the main deck to your opponent's hand except by drawing them. This is the reason the card was banned. So, so your opponent just can't search. They are under Droll and Lockbird all the time, and you are never under Droll and Lockbird. So this is a very unfair effect, very similar to how Master Hero Dark Law is a macrocosmos, but only for your opponent. It's really difficult for your opponent to actually get rid of Thunder Dragon Colossus, especially if you play it in defense position, so it can't be Lightning Stormed. They can kaiju it, but a lot of people don't play kaijus, which is a mistake. So if they don't kaiju it, then and they can't search, then they are going to have to find some way to remove Thunder Dragon Colossus from the field by link summoning or by maybe synchro summoning. But the problem is, its second effect. If this card would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can banish one Thunder monster from your graveyard instead. That is not once per turn. So every time this card would be destroyed, you can just banish a Thunder monster from your graveyard. And that triggers your Thunder monster's effects, and it also makes it very difficult for your opponent to get off the field, especially since they can't search. So yeah, this is a very frustrating card, very difficult card to play around, and it will usually win you the game as long as you can protect it with some negates. Next up, we have our boss monster, Thunder Dragon Titan. Level 10 light Thunder monster with 3,200 attack points and 3,200 defense points. It requires 3 Thunder Dragon monsters. Must either be fusion summoned or special summoned by banishing one Thunder monster from your hand and one Thunder fusion monster you control except Titan, in which case you do not use polymerization. So you can play a card like Instant Fusion and play Kaminari Attack so you can get a Thunder fusion monster on the field easily and then just summon it that way, but I don't really feel like that's needed. You could just play Thunder Dragon Fusion, it's fine. When a Thunder monster's effect is activated in the hand, even during the damage step, as a quick effect, you can destroy one card on the field. So that's pretty useful. It triggers off of a monster's effect being activated, not resolving, which means that Thunder Dragon Titan's effect actually will go on the stack before the chain ends. That's really good, actually, because most effects that trigger off of another effect, happening, will trigger on resolution. Like if this card is summoned, you use an effect. If this card, if you discard a card, you trigger this effect, that sort of thing. This card is like on activation. So that means that if your opponent is going to remove Thunder Dragon Titan from the board, you can activate a Thunder Dragon monster's effect in the hand, and then you will at least still get your pop before Thunder Dragon Titan is removed from the field. Destroying one card on the field without targeting, also very, very useful. So yes, this card is very good. And then if this card would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish 2 cards from your graveyard instead. Not once per turn, but it also can be any card instead of just Thunder monsters. So you can banish traps for this. You can banish your hand traps for this. This is a very difficult card to remove, but it has no battle protection. So if your opponent is able to beat over it, then you just lose it. Interesting card, and I like it a lot. We are playing Chaos Angel. Chaos Angel has a level 10 that requires a light tuner plus 1 or more non-tuner light or dark monsters. And for this card, Synchro Summon, you can treat a light or dark monster you control as a tuner monster. So what that means is, since it's level 10, we will make it off of Batteryman Solar and then any of our level 6 Bystial monsters, which is fine. And then Batteryman Solar is a light monster. All these cards are dark, so you get both effects of Chaos Angel. This card gains these effects based on the original attributes of the monster's materials used for its Synchro Summon. Light synchro monsters you control are unaffected by monster effects activated by your opponent. So Chaos Angel just completely unaffected by monster effects. Pretty nice. And dark, all monsters, not just synchro monsters, you control cannot be destroyed by battle, which is great protection for your Thunder Dragon Titan. Additionally, if this card is special summoned, you can target one card on the field and banish it. That is not once per turn, and it is also always, it always happens. So not just if this card is synchro summoned, but if it's special summoned from the graveyard, you get to banish a card from in the field. It's great. Alright, for the Link monsters, we have IP Masquerena. You cannot make this with Link monsters. It's 2 non-links. 800 attack points. During your opponent's main phase, as a quick effect, you can immediately after this effect resolves, Link summon 1 Link monster you control, using materials you control, including this card. Now, it's important to note, even though it explains... I don't understand this. I genuinely do not understand why IP Masquerena does this. It says, immediately after this effect resolves, Link summon 1 Link monster using materials you control, and yet for some reason, that does not override the rules of Underworld Gods of the Closed World. So Underworld Gods of the Closed World allows you to use a monster your opponent controls to Link summon this card. and you can use that off of IP. So IP lets you basically seal an opponent's monster and make Underworld Goddess, which is crazy. You can only use this effect once per turn, and a link monster that uses this card as material cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. That is a lingering effect, which means it can't be negated, it can't be stopped. Your monster just can't be destroyed by card effects, and your opponent has to remember that, because IP Masquerade doesn't like stick on there. Next up is Cross Sheep. Requires 2 monsters with different names. If a monster is special summoned to a zone this card points to, you can apply the following effects in sequence based on the type of monster. If it was a fusion monster, you special summon 1 level 4 or lower monster from your graveyard. Okay. So the reason why we were playing Cross Sheep is because you can make it with the token that the Batteryman Solar makes. So token's kind of hard to use as link material because a lot of link monsters say that they have to be effect monsters. You can use the token to make IP Masquerade, and you can use it to make Cross Sheep, but you can't use it to make a card like Access Code Talker, for example, because it requires effect monsters. So you make Cross Sheep using the token and like a Bystial card, and then after you've done that, you then tribute your Batteryman Solar that is still on the field to summon your Thunder Dragon Colossus to the zone that your Cross Sheep points to. That will trigger Cross Sheep's effect, allowing you to bring back your Batteryman Solar from the graveyard because it's a level 4 monster. Then you can use Batteryman Solar as additional link material to make a link 4, like say Appaloosa. So your Cross Sheep's already on the field, but then you can just use it to make Appaloosa. So that's pretty good. Yeah, this is just a good little card to use. And yeah, all the other effects don't matter because we basically only play fusions. The Dark Charmer Gloomy. Link 2, 1850 attack points. It requires 2 monsters, including a Dark monster. You can target 1 Dark monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your zone this card points to. And if this link summon card is destroyed by battle or destroyed by an opponent's card effect, you can add 1 Dark monster with 15 or less defense from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect once per turn. So this card will draw you your Thunder Dragon Dark, which is pretty nice. But primarily you're going to use this card basically to get yourself a Link 3. So you use 2 monsters, then you take 1 of your opponent's target monsters from the graveyard, and you rank up into a Link 3, like, for example, Nightmare Unicorn. Is that good? Yes, it's very good. Sprite Elf. 2 monsters including a level, rank, or Link 2 monster. So you will usually make this card using a Link 2 monster like Cross Sheep, because we don't play too many level 2 monsters. Cannot be used as Link material the turn it is Link summoned. Your opponent cannot target monsters this card points to with card effects. During the main phase, as a quick effect, you can target 1 level 2 monster in your graveyard, or if your opponent controls a monster, you can target a rank or Link 2 monster in your graveyard instead, and special summon it. You can only use this effect once per turn. Okay, so Sprite Elf you will usually use to get back a card like either Cross Sheep or IP Masquerade, and then get some cool IP Masquerade plays going. You know, the ability to protect your monsters from being targeted is also pretty nice. You can summon Titan to the zone this card points to and just pass. Good card. Okay. Skystriker Ace Azalea. Link 2 requires 2 light and or dark monsters. Must be Link summoned. You can only special summon Azalea once per turn. If this card is special summoned, you can target 1 card on the field, destroy it. Then if you have 3 or less spell cards in your graveyard, send this card to the graveyard. So this card will usually get sent to the graveyard. But it's a good, you know, you destroy 1 of your opponent's cards off. It's an emergency, I need this card off the field button. Once per turn at the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can banish a spell card from your graveyard to destroy that monster. Okay, so if you do happen to have, you know, spell cards in your graveyard, you can keep your Azalea and then pop more cards. So it's a pretty useful effect no matter what turn you use it on. Either late game it stays on the field, or early game you can just get rid of a card. Nightmare Unicorn. If this card is Link summoned, you can discard 1 card on the field. You can discard 1 card, target 1 card on the field, and shuffle it into the deck. Great. That's all you need. You can make this card during your opponent's turn with IP Masquerade, and just shuffle a card they control into the deck, and that ruins their turn. Blackluster Soldier, Soldier of Chaos. If this card is Link summoned using a level 7 or higher monster as material, your opponent cannot target with card effects. Also, it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So we have the Bystial Rebellion, which is a level 8 that's really easy for us to summon. It basically summons itself from the hand. So if you don't have anything to do with your Bystial Rebellion, you can link it into Soldier of Chaos and make an untargetable, undestructible boss monster. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can activate 1 of these effects. Either it gains 1500 attack points permanently, it can make a second attack during the next battle phase of your next turn, or you can banish a card on the field without targeting. All these effects are insane. Then we have Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess. Requires 2 or more monsters with different names except tokens. You can only control 1 Appaloosa, Bow of the Goddess. The original attack of this card becomes 800 times the number of link materials used for its link summon. So usually you want to link climb like say you make a link 2, then you go into a link 3, then you go into a link 4, that is actually not good for Appaloosa. Appaloosa needs more attack points, so it's actually most beneficial to make Appaloosa using 4 non-link monsters if you're able to, which Thunder Dragons are. Once per chain, when your opponent activates a monster effect as a quick effect, you can make this card lose exactly 800 attack points, and if you do, negate the activation. That is not once per turn. So if you get 4 monsters to make your Appaloosa, then it has 3,200 attack points, and that gives you 4 monster negates. Again, it doesn't destroy the monster just like Ash Blossom, but being able to negate 4 of your opponent's monster effects when they only start with 5 cards in their opening hand is really, really useful. Especially if you have Colossus out and they can't search, then they're going to be in big trouble. So Colossus plus Appaloosa is usually a pretty good board. Access Code Talker requires at least 2 effect monsters. Your opponent can activate cards or effects in response to this card's effect activations, any of them. If this card is Link Summon, you can target 1 Link monster that was used as Link material, and this card gains attack equal to that monster's Link rating times 1,000. So, if you make this with a Link 2, then it gains 2,000 attack points permanently. If you make it with a Link 3, it gains 3,000 attack points permanently. And your opponent can't respond to this effect activating, which means that it's the perfect chain block card. If you Link Summon using monsters that would activate effects when they go to the graveyard, such as all of your Thunder Dragons, then you can choose the order, and if you choose Access Code Talker's effect last, then your opponent cannot respond to Access Code Talker's effect activating, which means they can't negate or respond to any of your cards being activated as part of this chain. Insane. Then its other effect is you can banish 1 Link monster from your field or your graveyard, destroy 1 card your opponent controls. Also, for the rest of the turn, you cannot banish monsters with the same attribute to activate this effect of Access Code Talker. So, you can use this effect multiple times, and it doesn't target, it just destroys. But, once you've used the effect, you cannot banish a Link monster with the same attribute as a Link monster you've already banished in the same turn. So, if you banish, say, your Nightmare Unicorn, then you can't banish any more Dark monsters. Again, this is an effect that your opponent can't respond to, so you can just pop cards your opponent controls. You can do this effect multiple times. Your opponent will never get priority if you do it multiple times. Then you just enter the battle phase after you popped all their cards, and you attack them directly. So Access Code Talker, the game-ending card. Definitely a strong monster. And then lastly, we have Underworld Goddess of the Closed World. This card is hilarious. This is a Link 5. That requires 4 or more effect monsters. So you can only make this with like a Link 2 and 3 other monsters, or 5 monsters. But you can use 1 monster your opponent controls as material to Link Summon this card. So usually you only make it with 3 monsters you control and 1 monster your opponent controls. And if you make it with IP, then you can do it during your opponent's turn, which is crazy. If this card is Link Summon, you can negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls permanently. I love this effect. It's a great effect. You just pop off. It's insane. This Link Summon card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects unless they target this card, which is a very weird effect, but it's pretty good. And then once per turn, when your opponent activates a card or effect that special summons a monster from the graveyard, as a quick effect, you can negate the activation. So you can negate monster effects that activate in the graveyard to special summon. Fantastic. So yeah, this is the deck. Our goal is to make a big board and just pop off and force our opponent to run out of resources. Let's take a look at the replay. Alright, so we're going first against an Egyptian God deck. Our hand, we have Effect Veiler, Aloof Lupine, Thunder Dragon, and 2 Bystial monsters, including the Bystial Lubellion. This is a pretty good hand. We have a good normal summon, we have the Bystial Lubellion to sort of search and start our combo, and we have a hand trap. So let's see what we can do. We're going to start off with Thunder Dragon to bait Effect Veiler, or to bait Ash Blossom, and our opponent does not stop their turn. They don't respond at all, so we know that they don't have any hand traps. That's great. We activate Bystial Lubellion's effect, we pitch it, and we draw our Magnemite. Magnemite effect, banish the Thunder Dragon, special summon it. Activate the effects so that we can search during the end phase, and then we'll activate the Bystial Lubellion's effect from the graveyard, tribute to the Magnemite to special summon the Bystial Lubellion. Now we can activate its effect to play the Branded Regain from our deck, activate Thunder Dragon's effect a second time, discard 2, special summon another Thunder Dragon, and then we will special summon, we normal summon the Aloof Lupine, banish the last Thunder Dragon from our hand, and banish the Thunder Dragon Roar from our deck. That will let us special summon the Thunder Dragon Dark from our deck. And then we also chain Branded Regain as a chain link 2. We will shuffle the Thunder Dragon from our Banish Zone to our deck to draw a card. We drew Thunder Dragon Dark, pretty good. Special summon another Thunder Dragon Dark, and then we will activate our Bystial Druiswarm's effect, banish the other Thunder Dragon from our graveyard to special summon it. Now we have 4 monsters. Link all 4 of them off. 4 material Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, 3,200 attack points, Thunder Dragon's effect. Now we can add Thunder Dragon Fusion from our deck to our hand. And we will activate Thunder Dragon Fusion. We shuffle the Thunder Dragon and the Thunder Dragon Roar from our Banish Zone into the deck to special summon our Thunder Dragon Colossus. So we have Colossus, which prevents our opponent from searching. We have a 4 material Appaloosa so that we can make sure that our opponents can't activate 4 monster effects. We have Effect Veiler, we have Bystial Druid Swarm that we added back with the Magnamut. Bystial Druid Swarm, of course, if it's sent to the graveyard from the field, we get to target a special summon monster our opponent controls and just send it to the graveyard. We also have Branded Regain so that when we summon the Druid Swarm, we get to draw a card. Great. It's our opponent's turn, they draw. And they're going to normal summon Holding Arms and target the Appaloosa to negate its effects. That would turn Appaloosa's attack points back to 0. We can't allow that. So we were going to activate Branded Regain as a Chainlink 1 so that we can special summon a Bystial monster from our graveyard because our opponent normal summoned a monster. Activate Effect Veiler as Chainlink 2 to target the Holding Arms and negate its effects. Activate Thunder Dragon Dark's effect as a Chainlink 3 so we can draw another Thunder Dragon Dark. Activate Druid Swarm's effect as a Chainlink 4, so Chainlink 5 I mean. Banish the Aloof Lupine, special summon it. Draw. Negate. Revive. His effect is negated. Then we get to activate Magnamut's effect as a Chainlink 1, so we can search. Brandon Regain's effect as a Chainlink 2, we get another draw. Alright, our opponent sets 1 card face down, and then they basically give up. They have no other options. It's our turn, we draw. We drew the Bystial Rebellion off of the Magnamuts. Now we're going to try to summon Titan so we can get rid of this card. So we banish 2 to summon Titan, and we're going to use Thunder Dragon's effect from our hand to kind of pop this face down card, but our opponent's going to activate the card instead. It's Jam Defender, so our opponent didn't really have too many plays their turn. They probably were relying on search, and we didn't let them search. So we're just going to go into the battle phase and attack directly. And that's game. So there you go, chat. It's an easy way for you to make a Link 4 while also summoning a powerful lockdown boss monster and still having cards in your hand as well to interact with your opponent's board. So my name is Seraphi, and I was thrilled to have all of you with me.